for your sake, and for those who like the trolls, let's see if that happens. And for those of us that are a little more kind, maybe we'll see a sword. Who knows?
So far, just Link's allowance in the hopeful chest. And we got a quick map check. I did see red pendant in Hera and a regular crystal for Eastern. Ooh, we got red cane as the uncle item today.
It's a very interesting one. We did so. It's one of those that you do have like a limited amount of ammo due to magic. Although, just based on how many ways you can get hits, you can like throw the block at somebody. You can just sort of place the block down, and enemies can run into it of their own volition, or you can shoot the little beams out of it. It's got a pretty decent arsenal of abilities to get your way through escape.
Yeah, it's probably the most, or rather the least magic intensive of the magic items here, just because of the versatility.
For sure, and we saw Naka got a bomb drop in one of the bushes early on, so fortunately for them, that means they have all they need to get those 3 last chests in the back of the escape sequence, which is something that some runners left like tend to farm for bombs for when they're down in the sewers.
Sorry, Chad, I gotta take a look at my mic settings, see what's up.
And as you see going through this section, these runners, knowing they have a limited amount of magic, opting to just avoid all the guards they don't need to kill. And both of them just using that block as just a little, basically, just something for the enemies to run into, or they'll push the blocks into them. So it's very interesting to see this weapon, the cane, used as a weapon, because typically I'm used to just seeing it as just a thing to place on switches. And to continue saving on magic, they're both using a couple of pots to damage the ball and chain guard, and that's Quake in the prison cell chest. So that's 1 out of 3 medallions. That's always nice to get early on, so that by the time you get to Misery Mire or T-Rock, you know you won't be locked out of the dungeon just due to missing a medallion.
Okay, let's test my mic again. How am I sounding now? And that was for chat. So, any thoughts of what could be the backup escape?
I mean, it could be anything, although if I'm thinking of fun items that I like to see early, I always hope for powder, just because I love checking the magic bat. It's just a spot that I've decided is a place I like, so I'm always rooting for that. Plus, it's a nice safety item, but I don't know. If I could just pick an item I see off of the tracker, maybe a cape. Maybe that'll show up too, I don't know.
I would like to see like either all 300s, all shields, or all swords. I know the spring tournament last year we had all shields in the back of the skateboard. That was really funny.
That would be an interesting set to find for sure.
See, so neither runner had issues finding that rat with the key. They, for some reason, that rat's just such a pain. Never back escape. Oh, irony. There's the boots and the moon pearl. Nice.
And the map in case they get lost on these last few rooms on their way out of the dungeon or the sewers.
Yeah, just trip up the stairs somehow. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny and ironic that the boots are inside a wall that can be bumped.
For sure. And there's a nice heart container. We won't know if it was the actual sanctuary heart or not, because, well, at least from Durand's side, Naka might be able to tell us.
No, it wasn't the same cart. Close though. Let's see if they check bonk rocks. Durand forgot, but Nakachuu did remember about that since the early boots.
Which I can totally understand Durand missing that, because a lot of times at the very beginning of the run, you sort of have an autopilot route that you take, like through Escape all the way to maybe visiting Kakariko and possibly South Shore as well. So to just kind of realize, oh wait, I have boots, is like an extra little step that you don't always think when you're only 7 minutes into the run.
Okay, just the big 20 at Lumberjack. The bushcraft was really good because it dropped bombs, so they don't have to go to the shop to buy any bombs or to do any additional farming besides that. I didn't see the tree pole, did you?
Unfortunately, I missed it as well. Little piece of love in that thief hideout in the Lost Woods. And I don't think we've seen what the other item is in here yet in the mushroom spot.
Just another big 20. Durand kinda was about to leave, but then realized, wait, I need money for the bottle vendor.
Yeah, it's definitely always nice to pick up a decent amount of cash as you start out to avoid having to do any extra Kakariko visits. And also in case you need to do Zora early, because there have been times where like you're completely locked out by the logic from every location except Zora, but you don't get enough money, so you find yourself having to farm in some very unfortunate setup. And nothing exciting so far in Blind's basement here. One last chest to check, though. Get a little bit of money on the way. I totally understand that. And just a little extra leather for Durand's quiver there.
Yeah, it looks like the thieves weren't very good at stealing this today. And the well has a piece of heart. Big 20. More piece of heart, a 5 rupee, and oh, Argentum arrows there. Nice. i.e. the silvers. I always go by the Latin name.
It's definitely a good find early, so you don't have to worry about any potential annoying Ganon fights at the end, and also just for all your bosses along the way as well.
And we got our first sword in the chicken hut.
So definitely a pretty nice loaded arsenal to start off here. Got a couple of weapons, got boots to run fast. Once we get that bow, we'll have silvers for it. Pretty decent haul to start, I'd say.
Okay, let's see what our library has. Since they have the boots, you can get if they need it, but it's just the heart container. However, early game would be a good idea to get that since, well, you're still pretty low in life. Oh, we got the power glove on the race game.
So this would have been one of those few scenarios where just gambling on doing the race game would pay off. Because some runners, rather than doing that little check, will just drop a bomb and go in here immediately. But, you know, totally understandable to give it a quick check first.
And it's a even faster check since they have the boots. And like you said, Nakachuu just going after it, not even gonna check first. So right now they have 2/3 of Dark World access. All they need right now is the hammer.
Yeah, that or another glove upgrade, which fortunately that sounds a lot closer than what they need to get access to Aghanim. So hopefully for them we won't be seeing an Aghanim seed here.
Yeah, we don't want to agonize or antagonize them.
So that's how it's going to be, huh?
Hey, I warned you in pre-chat that I'm gonna be punning a lot.
Yeah, I know, but still, it's pretty cringy one to hear for the first one.
So nothing in the dam so far, just bombs and other trash. Hopefully Mini Moldorm Cave will have something.
And this mini Moldorm Cave is one of those places that like, if you're not used to dealing with it with like a lack of inventory, it can be a pain if you don't come in here with a sword. So, like, basically they've got a pretty good start here to have to do this cave, but it can be a pain at times when you just can't kill these enemies easily.
Okay, this Mini Moldorm Cave was more like a shield cave because they found 2 shields in there just now. So kind of funny, I got my wish for a mostly shield cave in a later spot. Okay.
And both runners are also getting pretty close to having enough money for a Zora check, which is always good to be able to find in chests. And there's their sword upgrade, which that also puts them 1 item away from an Aghanim check. Or Agaseed, I mean.
Yeah, I don't think either runner wants to see that this early, but having the second sword is good. And it looks like Durand remembered, oh, I have the boots, I can check the bomb rods. And maybe he'll route a Death Mountain check. Even, oh, yeah, you're wrong, never mind.
possibly because it would be a sequence break, and he doesn't want to have to deal with that because he doesn't have lamp yet.
And he might not be comfortable with Dark Runes, even though that one is not so bad for most experienced runners.
But yeah, it makes sense to opt to check Eastern first because there's 3 items plus whatever inside Eastern Palace that are all within logic. So totally get checking here first, and Naka's actually doing the exact same thing.
Wow,
There's your 3rd shield.
3 shields within 16 minutes. That's funny.
I mean, finding all 3 shields that early, that could mean by the time they get Turtle Rock access, they might be expected to find something nifty on a laser bridge.
Yeah, in a green pendant Turtle Rock, right?
I mean, if it's going to be trolly, that would be the way to go, so probably. And when we had a look at the map there, you could see the Pikachu sprite's overworld like representation is a Pokeball. So one of those neat little things that you get to see as you characters pick different sprites. And there's the lamp.
Okay then. Well, actually, I was gonna say it's nearly Aga confirmed, but they do have Dark Death Mountain to check after this.
Very true. Plus, there's 2 other items that they might possibly find here in Eastern. So with each chest they open, it's just one step closer to like, okay, this isn't the hammer or the other gloves. Maybe I have to do Aghanim. But, you know, it's interesting what they're what they might be thinking right now about that.
Probably wanting to kill me because I think a majority of my comm shifts have been Aga seeds.
I feel like mine's been the opposite. So apparently your influence is stronger than mine today.
For our runner's sake, we better hope they're wrong, that I'm wrong. Okay, so nothing else so far in the chest at Eastern, besides that lamp. And we just got the map in the big chest, so there's either a compass or an item in the big key chest.
Did we catch what the second item was in this dungeon then?
I think it was trash, to be quite honest.
Okay, gotcha. Our tracker's saying it was a piece of heart, so there we go.
Gotcha. Thank you, GFE, for tracking today. And the last item was just 10 arrows, so nothing else in Eastern right now.
So I believe that just leaves Death Mountain, which there's only 2 items they have access to up there, 2 item locations between Uncle and inside a not Uncle, Old Man, and what's inside Spectacle Rock. Or there's Zora, isn't there?
Yeah, Zora himself, once they get the rupees, anything else in the Zora area would be a sequence point.
Oh, and then there's Agnes Cave, that one location that people tend to leave off just because it's so over on its own unless you have Desert Palace access.
Yeah, it's a very inconvenient one-off location because especially without, say, the flute. The boots, it's not so bad, but walking there is just horrible.
Agreed.
And we've just upgraded to the Archer class because the old man gave us the bow.
Oh wow, that means that well, they're not going to find any new items on Eastern, but had one of these runners done a sequence break up the mountain to get that bow and then done Eastern, they could have possibly saved a little bit of time. It's nothing huge, I guess, all things considered, but just kind of something to think about.
Yep. Meanwhile, Spectacle Rock just held no items whatsoever. And it looks like Durand has a 50-50 right now in terms of in fighting game turns. Is he going to go north? No, he's going south towards Agnes Cave.
Yeah, so there's 2 more in logic chances for this to not be an Aghanim seed. Between Zora, which neither of these runners have the money for quite yet, and Agina's Cave.
Yeah, they need a little bit of more money, but there is that one rock near desert that's a really good money farming spot.
Yeah, unfortunately, they have gloves to lift the rock to get in there. I've seen runners that had to farm money without having gloves, and they're like having to go get some money in Kakariko, which is just not fun.
Well, Agna only had the Ether medallions, so yeah, they have to figure another way out. Nakachuu is actually using that suggestion I had, farming the money right now. Meanwhile, Durand goes up to Aga.
So this is an interesting deviation. I'm guessing Naka's thinking I can farm the money on my way to Agina's Cave just to kind of save a little bit of routing time. Oh, and accidentally talking to the thief in there, getting lectured a bit about stealing all his money and breaking all his pots.
Yeah, this is one of those funny little add-ons that the Rando developers put in. All the NPCs, if you're just doing a casual one, just talk to all the NPCs. They have some really interesting flavor text, especially one of the NPCs in the bar who, like me, likes to throw out way too many puns.
I guess they'd like to hang out with Blind then, because Blind is also chock full of puns and bad jokes.
Yep. So meanwhile, Durand not having too much issue with the Aga Tower, and Nakachu's gonna gonna go for the fake fluker setup to get to Zora. Question chat, is progression locked by Aga? We will find out with Nakachu's play if Zora is the answer to the equation.
The interesting alternate possibility is that Naka's also potentially going to do some sequence break checks here. So, if, like, perhaps if there's a glove or hammer upgrade inside this waterfall, that means that maybe flippers are somewhere else that doing Aghanim would get you to eventually, but like just doing the sequence break gets you there instead.
Okay, we found a mirror in the waterfall wishing. That's a sequence break for sure. She can go up to Hera if that's the case. Vanilla piece of heart on the Zora ledge. And let's see if King Zora is gonna give a love lesson, a life lesson, or some progression. All we got were some really soggy clothes that need to be put through the dryer right now. Speaking of which, I have to do my laundry.
Interestingly, Nak is doubling down on the sequence break from the mirror and gonna go into the Hera tower and see what's in there.
Tuba points out in chat because it was a blue mail that Kingfish gave up. It was actually the Zora tunic from Ocarina of Time. That's pretty funny. Well, yeah, we as commentators are doing our due diligence. How many blue balls will Aga shoot out today? And apparently there's been 3 right now, I think? No, 4? Meanwhile, Nakachuu found the big key to Hera, so hopefully they won't. So they won't have to go to the basement unless they don't find anything on the top of the tower.
And Aghanim's down.
So let's see where our progression is. Is it pyramid, catfish, pod, or pyramid just has 50 rupees?
Hera giving 100 rupees as well. Yeah, was that the first or second item in Hera at this point?
That was the first. Nakachu's only found the big key in the compass previously. And now the small key. So we got a 50-50 chance and Moldorm has the final item. I really like this routing by Durand. It's because it's a one-off location. He doesn't really want to go into pod yet, so let's get rid of these one-off locations for peace of mind. Unfortunately, it was just 50 rupees. And again, and without the mirror, he can't mirror to Zora. So let's see, I saw green pendant in Thieves. I think I saw red crystal in Skull, and I didn't see the last one. And yeah, unfortunately, Nakachuu is getting trolled on really badly.
Can happen to the best of us, though. Sometimes it's just Moldorm's not playing nice.
Okay, I was wrong. I did see a red crystal in the top corner, but it was actually TR, not Skull. Skull's just a regular crystal. Oh god. Unfortunately, Nakachuu found the map on Troldar, which means we have to go to the basement of Hera to see if there's any progression or if this was a waste of time.
And Durand with bow in hand entering pod is going to have access to just about everything there is in here except for Helmasaur King, I believe.
That is correct, but so far he's found keys. Interesting that he's going for the big key chest right now. Well, I do realize he has one key, but usually they would save that for the back and then do this last. And I would have been wrong too, because that was the vanilla big key in the big key chest and pot.
Yeah, so this time around definitely paying off to check that chest first, rather than having to go through that maze twice or just waiting for that big key for a while.
And unfortunately, that mirror led the Nakachuu straight because she didn't find anything with Hera. And this is why some runners don't do sequence breaks, because they can lead you very badly astray and you might need a little time to get back into it. And wow, we just found the ice rod in pod. That is really good.
It makes perfect sense for that to be there because it rhymes. Ice Rod and Pod. It's genius.
Okay, honestly, I wasn't actually making it trying to make a rhyme or pun, but it works.
Of course, by that logic, we should expect the Fire Rod in here as well. Not sure if we'll be that lucky today.
Nah, Fire Rod will be in Mimic Cave, and then you have to go back to the Fire Rod route with TR to get the big key.
You're just hoping these runners have a lot of trouble, aren't you?
No, I'm just like being a troll, that's all.
Fair enough.
Anyway, back to Durand side. He unfortunately took death, an unintentional death to the Beatles. They just overwhelmed them in that room. They can be really obnoxious. Nothing in the basement of Harris so far. Just so many keys. This is one of the reasons why I call Dark Palace the dungeon with no bats, but way too many keys. But I also like calling Dark Palace the treasure pot, because that was the golden glove right there.
And that's going to give Durand access to the western side of Dark World, as well as, well, that's about it for now, I suppose, like Dark World wise, because getting Aghanim only gets you so far into the Dark World, only to the east side, basically.
Yes, this is true. Durand now has access to the Kakariko portal. And without the hammer, Durand's gonna save and quit, and then gonna head to Kakariko, as I said.
There's a potential for a King's Tomb check right before there. We'll see if that happens.
And you are correct.
Yeah, with those Titan's mitts on hand, just a nice little check to get here.
Unfortunately, it was just 5 arrows. Nothing much there. Question chat, no, we haven't checked Hype Cave. We don't have the hammer yet. And Durand just picked up the mitts.
Yeah, unfortunately with this setup, actually making your way to Hype Cave would take a pretty decent loop around. Just because hammer gives you the quick access, but Titan's mitt gets you there just way slower.
Yeah, if we're gonna follow the routing, more than likely, well, I was gonna say I was gonna go Skullwoods, but I guess I'm wrong, so I'll just shut my mouth for a bit.
Yeah, Skullwoods is one of those places that some people treat as like just, at least the front of it, they treat as just like some quick overworld location sort of, but at the same time, the enemies hit hard in Skullwoods, so it can be a little intimidating to go there.
Yeah, and the enemy skill set is just, damage output is just really ridiculous. Namely the Gittos.
And as Naka is working her way through Aghanim right now, you gotta wonder what's going through her mind right now due to the fact that they went for a sequence break and it didn't pay off. So it's like they might be thinking they gotta do something big to try to catch up if they feel behind, in which case, you know, between Catfish and Pod, which one do you go to first? We'll see what Naka opts to do.
Yeah, that is a good question. With Durand, he went off to a one-off location. Nakachuu might pick the more item-dense location. Oh, we got just 2 digs for the diggy game today, but it's only a big 20. And while Stumpy's item completely blew.
The one thing, sorry, I was going to say the one thing I will say is if Naka chooses to walk in Durand's footsteps going forward with that mirror, there are a few extra places that she'll be able to check that Durand won't be able to. So the sequence break still could have its benefits of paying off down the road until Durand finds those flippers to give him the mirror.
While Durand's checking Hype Cave, let's see how hype it is. Trash, trash, trash. That was a completely red cave. Only pizza farts and big 20s. Yeah, chat's not really loving that Hype Cave. It was really trite today. Durand's not deciding to take a dip into Thieves Down, even though it's a green pendant, it's a good idea, but again, it's still a pendant. And he gets the big key pretty early. There should be 3. The big key always has to be early in the Thieves Town, otherwise you won't be able to progress.
And with there being 4 like non-dungeon items within Thieves Town and 2 chests already not having any of them, we'll see if Durand chooses to clear the dungeon or just grab these first 4 chests and head out.
Oh, first 4 were dungeon items. That's not looking very good.
Yeah, there was 1 heart container in there, but besides that, yeah, so the back end has 3 more, which could mean there could be an item locked in the big chest, which is locked by hammer, which Durand does not have at the moment.
Hopefully it's just a small key locked in the big chest, which is a possibility in this logic. Otherwise, yeah, if that big chest has progression, they're gonna have to come back with a hammer. Thieves are not really doing their job if they only stole a single rupee and left it in a chest.
Maybe this is just the decoy Thieves Town that everyone knows about and goes into, and they have a secret stash elsewhere, possibly. I don't know.
That would make sense, just like having different hideouts and just making amateur travelers fall into these traps.
Finding a key in Blind's prison cell there, not what they wanted to see.
Nope, nope. They're gonna want to. They're gonna have to come back with the hammer and hope, but they're probably gonna be more hoping that there's nothing there. Off to the blind fight. This is a fairly scripted fight as long as you get your hits in, because it only takes 9 hits with any type of weapon to, well, any type of melee or weapon or the blue or the canes. You can kill blind pretty easily.
When you hear those little clinks, you hear that mirror shield paying off, getting a few defense opportunities there. And there was a bee in a bottle dropped from Blind as well.
Interesting. Maybe Sick Kid will have the next progression.
Quite possibly, which that's another instance I'm looking at where Naka having the mirror, if she goes through Thieves Town, could get a quick Sick Kid check after that bottle. So, I don't know, I keep talking about these theoretical benefits of having that mirror, but until Naka starts until Naka gets that Titan's Mint from here in Pod and starts making some plays, we won't know how all it'll pan out.
Meanwhile, Durand seems to be doing his own sequence break. He's going to be fake flickering as well, since he has the money for Zora. And unlike Nakachuu, he's going to check the Hobo and Lake Highlight Island. The island only has another big 20. Meanwhile, we find out that the hobo was a Fletcher because he only gives you 10 arrows.
And Durand gets the fake flippers trick out of Hobo there, and we'll be heading most likely to Zora.
Looks like so far that anything flippers related hasn't really unlocked anything besides the mirror, which leads me to ask, where are these flippers?
It also makes me wonder, what do we actually have like accessible in Logic at this point? I know there's Skull Woods. Do we have anything else left?
Nothing, honestly, now that I think about it.
So depending on if Durand takes that mirror and goes up Hera, just as Naka did, it will be the case that they'll be just sort of retracing each other's steps, giving Naka a chance to catch up, possibly.
This is true, and since they neither of them have the hammer or the hookshot, Durand will not be able to go progress any farther besides Hera. Also, someone pointed out in chat, we do have the Smith sequence that we can do, since it is possible to do both parts of the sequence with a save and quit.
That is very true. It looks like Durand might possibly be opting to stay in Logic, because it didn't go up to Hera at least.
I think dependent on Hera is kind of making it very iffy as well. You could be doing the. Never mind. If I was going to do a North Dark World check, but it looks like he's going to go and retrieve Jeremiah Bullfrog.
Which that does make sense, because like chat mentioned, the mirror is out of Logic, but checking Jeremiah and Purple Chest are both within Logic. So even if the game expects you to do them really slow, the sequence break is sort of speeding up in Logic item checks.
This is true. So they'll also be able to check Sick Kid pretty quickly as well.
So I think this overall is actually pretty smart use of sequence break items overall.
And we finally got our progression. Well, we finally found out where our flippers were. They were at the Smiths.
So that means the game did expect you to do a mirrorless delivery back of the hammersmith people, whatever you call those people, dwarf smiths.
Absolutely. Yeah, it looks like Durand is going to also do the rest of the Smith's chain.
And hopefully we'll remember that, he'll remember that Peg Cave was left behind, because now it becomes like a sort of on its own location. That and possibly the Bat Cave as well, depending on what items Durand gets along the way.
He will be able to check Haunted Grove Cave with that mirror. It looks like Naka just checked the first four chests of Thieves Town and decided to nope out.
That definitely makes sense with it being a pendant dungeon. Have we turned in the green pendant yet?
No, Durand skipped on checking that part. It looks like the mouse is taking the frog on a world tour. And there's our progression. The purple chest had the hammer.
That is a very outlandish place to find the hammer, I gotta say.
Indeed.
But with that hammer, Durand sees all the access to the east side of Death Mountain that has just opened up and just uses that spin speed or whatever trick to get up to that warp fast and just makes his way up to the top of the mountain.
So the question will be, will he check into Hera? Nope, he's gonna... Nope, he is checking into Hera, so we might get into a bit of a parity between the two runners. From a logical standpoint, it's not really a bad play since you're there, but from what we've, because 2020 is hindsight is 2020, we know that this is the bad play. Meanwhile, Nakachoo's kind of having a little issue with the save and quits because she's going all over the place besides Sanctuary.
Just keeping the tour going, letting Jeremiah see all the sights around the entirety of Hyrule.
Meanwhile, Durand decided instead of doing the vanilla drop down to bomb jump to the Hera Big Hera Big Chest. Also, Durand realizing that, oh, I have the hammer. Let's pound this bug to paste.
Yeah, that definitely can kill Moldorm faster than using just the Master Sword. It's just sometimes being able to use sword spins can keep you on the arena platform a little easier. So, yeah, manages to make quick work. Plus, the hammer has a weird hitbox, but Durand makes it look pretty easy, even with that.
Yeah, he didn't take any falls to Moldor compared to Nakachuu. So right now, Nakachoo's just checking north. Dark Road, probably gonna check. I don't think she's checked King's Tomb, but at least she'll have the rally to do the Graveyard Ledge at the same time.
Right, and we haven't seen Graveyard Ledge yet, have we? Durand didn't go there, I don't believe.
No, he didn't. He did the flank rocks already, so that is the bonk rocks in the King's Tomb. So graveyard ledge is kind of a one-off. And we got the swag nets for our troubles. I'm still debating whether that was a net gain or a net loss to check the graveyard ledge.
Son Naka, they're having a little bit of trouble setting the purple chest aside to get into the tomb. And the ghosts that appear in the graveyard after killing Aghanim are just messing with her, but makes it through, gets in the King's Tomb, comes back out, and will be heading towards making that delivery of the purple chest to get the hammer.
Meanwhile, Durand found some half magic in the spiral cave. That's going to be very useful for the late game.
Oh, and then Naka actually just tried to use boots to dash out of her house and left the purple chest behind. a little scare for a moment there.
So Durand with mirror, with mints and hammer is going to check both sides of the Death Mountain. So he has about 10, 11 items to check, I believe.
I'm not sure. Did you include Hookshot Cave in there or not? Because I know there's one chest I can check in there because there's that bonkable location, but that's just one of those places that you have access to, but need Hookshot to get to some of the items.
No, I just had really bad. I'm usually good at math, but I really sucked at it that time. I think it's closer to 14, 15 items in the entirety of East Death Mountain.
Gotcha, okay. Either way, I do know for sure there's a lot of places that can be checked while we're up here.
And you are right. I did make a mistake there. There is 3 items that they can't check unless they find the hook shots in this area.
Just a piece part of that floating island today.
Why is it called a floating mountain? I mean, floating island. I mean, it's really just a faraway mountain top with the clouds covering the bottom of the mountain.
It just looks floating. I don't know. But yeah, that was Bombos being the required medallion for T-Rock there, which is not what these runners want.
Yeah, they're getting very badly debated by the first 2 medallions they got really early in the game. So as Chaz pointing out, that adds to the pedestal hype index, which is really just Fire Rod, Bombos, and I think Hookshot as well? Yeah, Hookshot as well. Yeah, it looks like with that newly found cave, Durand's gonna check Spike Cave. Though he has to be careful, he only has 3 hearts, and even with the half magic, that can be a little dicey. But he also has boots, so it's not as dicey as I thought. But all for a big 20, that's not what he wanted.
At the very least, he won't have the cave, messing with him in the back of his mind. But yeah, definitely not paying off the way he'd want.
Though that cave might lead into Bumper Cave, I don't believe either runner has checked Bumper Cave yet.
I believe you are correct, because we haven't been up there nor in the Skull Woods area either, so hopefully one of these runners might give us a check of that soon.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because most runners, once they get the Dark World access, they usually go up north to Skull Woods, but Durand just seems to be avoiding it like the plague.
I'm gonna get another one-off location instead with these hammer pegs.
And it was just more arrows. Womp womp.
Right, Durand's head back up north now. This is a Bumper or Skull Woods at this point. Well, we're back south.
Yeah, it looks like he's gonna check Thief's Town Big Chest. He wants to get that out of his mind as well. And yeah, as Chad was pointing out, we're an hour and 2 minutes in, and we still don't have any crystal dungeons completed.
They do have the ability to at least beat Eastern, which would be a quick thing, but both of these runners know, I believe, that there's no items left in Eastern at this point because they stopped in earlier. So that's at least an explanation for one of them. But yeah, a lot of these dungeons are just limited on items to be able to complete.
They can also beat pods, so they can do the 1-2 combo. But yeah, this season has been fairly linear, from what I can tell. Just follow the breadcrumbs.
Yeah, the one thing that I think these runners could have done, depending on what's in Skull Woods, if there's some kind of alternate progression item there, that could have sent these runners on a completely different path than what we've seen so far. But both of these runners are making a lot of very similar plays at this point.
Agreed. They haven't really veered off from their paths too much.
And it pays off for Durand finding that hook shot in the Thieves Town Big Chest. Wow. It's like something I definitely don't see that often. I usually hear people say it's not worth checking that last chest in Thieves Town because it's just one. What are the odds? But there's times the odds were 100% apparently.
That was incredibly trolly. You had to do it. You had to do this, the Smith sequence to get the hammer before going into Thieves Town to get that hook shot. Wow.
Along with the fact that you weren't expected to have mirror in the first place in order to do the Smith sequence.
That too. This is a very trolly linear seed so far. Anyway, Durand finally gonna do his check of Thieves Town. I mean Skull Woods.
Meanwhile, Naka with the flippers and mirror and hammer is going to be able to check a great deal of Swamp Palace. So we've got a pretty big route deviation here.
Even with what we know, this is actually a pretty risky gamble since you do need the hook shot to finish Swamp and to access the the latter part of Swamp, which has 4 items. And we just saw Bugbear Cave. It was just another big 20. Meanwhile, Durand again is doing all the one-off locations. He's being very thorough about these one-offs. And Durand meanwhile felt that the Grave Ledge item was a net loss and decides not to take it.
Let's keep those puns coming. They're glorious.
Since when did I become Bobby Roode? Are we gonna get a bit of a high five? Looks like Durand's going to swap as well. But this time he has the hook shot, so this will work out a lot better for him.
Yeah, so I don't think Nak has found anything too big in Swamp yet, and slowly running out of potential locations for there to be anything for, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, especially since she only did the first 4 chests of Thieves Town, and it's like not really sure if she would really want to go back to it. She's more likely to go to Skullwards than back to Thieves Town at this point. And I couldn't really tell, but was it the double dip Thieves Town technically, or could they have just gone to Smith's sequence and then do Thieves Town?
I don't recall anything else big being in Thieves Town, so because they had Titan's Mitts to get to the Smiths from the Palace of Darkness, I believe it could have been possible to do in a single dip. It's just unlikely based on where all the item locations were.
This is true. It's all these locations been pretty weird and trolly.
Yeah, I don't think there's really been like one location that's been heavy on items in this seed. It's been like go here to get this one item and then go somewhere else for another item, like not really rewarding you too much in one specific location.
So Durand looks like he's skipping the left side of Swamp, which, as we saw on Nakachoo's side, there was nothing there. That's kind of a standard play. Most runners hope for all the items to be in the back of Swamp. All
right, so Naka's heading west here, probably Heading into the Dark World, we'll see if it's for Thieves Town or Skull Woods, though. Or some third option that I'm not predicting because I make missed calls like that all the time. Oh, there's our Fire Rod in Swamp Palace on the way towards the back.
Ain't that ironic? Something that douses fire is where you find the source of fire.
And here's that Thieves Town dip that Naka needs, and with hammer in hand, we'll be able to check to get that hook shot during her first full dip into Thieves Town. She has checked the front 4 chests, but not doing all the back stuff that Durand had to do, at least.
Yep. Speaking of hammer, Durand opts to not make Argus a menu boss and just uses the Master Sword throughout. But he has to be careful, he only has 2 parts right now. Interestingly, he's not opting for a Fire Rod or Silver Arrow strats, which would have made the fight a lot quicker. And there we have it. At an hour and 12 minutes in, we got our first crystal.
So Durand with big key in hand, opting to go back into Swamp to go ahead and clear it out, leave no stone unturned, which, based on all the other plays we've seen Durand do, is very in line with his playstyle.
Absolutely, he is incredibly thorough with everything that he's done.
Which can be kind of time-consuming in some seeds and like lose you a lot of time, but at least with some locations, it's definitely paying off for Durand in this case.
Absolutely. So it looks like for Go mode, we're only looking for Bombos and the Flute at the moment.
I believe so. That sounds right. And then possibly any fetch quest items that could be required for that. But yeah, as of right now, those are the only ones we know for sure.
There are also 2 potential items if this is going to become pedestal seed.
Yeah, and without book, we have no way of knowing if this will become a pedestal seed either.
Or it could be a paradox and the book is in the pedestal. Meanwhile, Nakachuu takes down Blind, gets her green pendant. Durand... I wonder where he's going. I would have thought maybe he'd go east to Ice Palace, but...
I'm liking what Naka's doing here, remembering having just acquired a bottle, just getting the quick sick kid check out of the way right now. It's very good to do.
It looks like Durand's gonna do the pod, the Eastern 1-2 combo, and probably gonna check the Sahasrara item right now. Also getting trolled by one of those red guards. They are such a pain.
Yeah, Naka's gonna go ahead and finish what she started in Swamp now that she's got Hook Shot in hand, which is definitely a good thing to do. Get that first crystal, get a couple more item checks, and she'll find that Fire Rod, which may lead her to Skull Woods.
And Sahasrara only has 5 rupees. Womp, womp, womp. So now it looks like Durand just wants to complete as many crystals as possible. Probably gonna... It wouldn't surprise me he's gonna avoid the Ice Palace for a little bit just because he wants to go mode it, but we'll see. And with this seed as it is right now, it doesn't seem clean. Also, I just noticed Turtle Rock is completely open. Well, sorry, never mind. I'm completely stupid. I forgot. We still need bombs.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. Don't worry. But yeah, once they find it, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think which item would be worse to find first between the two. Because sometimes when I'm like 2 items away from go mode, I tell myself I'd rather find this item first because it unlocks less or something like that. But both of their go mode items each open just like one new area, so it's not like a big deal one way or the other necessarily.
Though I think there'd probably be a bigger preference to the flute, just because they can just beat TR and then Turtle Rock and then walk to Ganon's Tower.
Very true. Yeah.
Nakachuu finally getting her Fire Rod. Probably gonna need to use it a little bit to dry it off before fully using it. Meanwhile, Durand is taking on Helmasaur, 14 hits with a hammer to break the skull, and 1 arrow to duel to kill the big dinosaur. Let's see what it drops. Just a burrito.
So that actually means that both Eastern Palace and Palace of Darkness, like, they've gotten all the items in them, so I'm guessing Durand is just taking this opportunity to sort of recollect his thoughts and think, where do I want to go next? Because when you're clearing dungeons that you know don't have any items in them, it's like, you know, something you have to do at some point. It makes sense. Like, it's just kind of something you can do when you're running low on ideas, I suppose.
Well, when one of those ideas is a full clear of Ice Palace, I can see why he might want to beat these crystals first.
Very true. He might be debating because I'm trying to think. So he could go into Ice Palace. He also has the option of heading up to Death Mountain to finish off Hookshot Cave as well.
There is that as well. Between the travel time up to Death Mountain and full completing Ice Palace, which would you do first?
I think I'd rather go ahead and do Ice Palace, given the fact that I have the ability to go ahead and finish that dungeon entirely, and so in the end, at the very least, I'll get a crystal. But yeah, I can tell. I understand the sacrifice of not go moding it can be kind of costly. So, but I'd still say I'd go for the dungeon with a crystal in it if I can beat it.
Especially since with Tower Hera, Durand was capable of bomb jumps, so he had to practice the Ice Palace bomb jump pretty well.
Very true, but at least in Naka's case, I don't know if we saw both items in Skull Woods on Durand's side or not, but Naka can completely clear Skull Woods and might find some items we haven't seen yet there, so it makes sense to head there first before even thinking about Ice Palace.
And Skull Woods, despite being 2 items, is faster than Ice Palace. So it looks like Durand's gonna follow Nakachuu into Skull Woods. Nakachuu still hasn't found anything yet for the time being. Let's see what Durand finds in the meantime, since he's probably just gonna go straight to the back. Nakachuu not having any problems with that Gipto room, which is especially easier when you have the Red King. And we did. Then she finds the big key in its vanilla location. Is this even random?
Oh, and that Wallmaster grabs her right as she's trying to get a key. That's a pain. Gives us a little bit of sync between the runners, though.
And the Durand also got grabbed by the Wallmaster. Youch.
Only difference is he was able to get the key first.
No, it looks like Nakachuu was able to get the key as well, because she had 2 keys.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I don't know if I missed that or what, but apparently.
I don't know, it looked really weird. I don't know how that worked with Nakachuu. As well, Nakachuu having a little knows that Gyptos can be taken out with the silver arrows very quickly, so decides not to use any fire rod shots. Now Durand is about to jump in and face the moth. Looks like this is going to be one very long high fight between the 2 of them. And just as I say that, I curse Nakachuu because she got a very raw bad hand.
Yeah, the Wallmasters are just out for blood today for sure.
And Durand, despite facing off against the trolley boss, takes the moth down, but only gets a burrito for his troubles. So he's probably gonna go back in and check the chest in the bottom of the back.
Because there's an item there as well as in the big chest could also give an item. You can see Naka playing it a little extra safe, waiting for Wallmaster to come down before picking up that pot. Or skull or whatever it is.
A skull pot. And all we got was a bloomerang. Ooh.
You mean blue?
Yeah, the item blue. And Durand's gonna do the bomb jump and only finds a single ruby. Skull Woods is bone dry for items. Wow.
Yeah, and the worst part about it was it basically forced you to like check everything before you found that out, just based on the placement of all the items.
Yeah, that's on par for course for the sea. Looks like Durand is gonna check Bookshop Cave, see if there's anything there. This seed has really been giving them the runaround. They've just been following the breadcrumbs, but some of those breadcrumbs have led to nothing.
Exactly. Yeah, the seed just I think the seed wants them to clear as much as possible.
Yeah, it's gonna turn into a 100% seed at this rate, or rather, an all dungeon seed. Second chest in Bookshot is 50 rupees, and now Shroom, and a heart piece, so all we got is a fetch quest right now.
I just had a thought based on our discussion of would you rather find flute and bombos first? So it made sense, like you want to do Turtle Rock last, so you'd probably want to find the flute first so you can finish Misery Mire first. However, if they find flute before bombos, that keeps the pedestal dream alive. If they find that or book, they'll have access to desert, which is the last pendant these runners need. So finding bombos first is guarantees no more pedestal. Unless, well, possibly not if they find book to get like flute from in desert or something, but I don't know. Just a little thought process going through my head.
Ooh, that would be extra trolly.
Although with how much pendant completion we've already seen in this seed, I don't even know if a pedestal seed is necessarily the worst thing to happen anymore.
Yeah, with the way the seed has been, yeah, we're probably gonna see GT Tile Room or something on Mimic Cave. Who knows? Of course, GT Tile Room is my favorite place to pick for a big key game. That's later on. So yeah, I would still love that anyway. Durand nearly messed up that bomb kill on both of the Stackles, but he was able to recover with that sword swipe.
And with the intention of full clearing Ice Palace, looks like Durand's opting not to bomb jump.
Makes sense. I've heard from other runners and commentators that it's easier to just ignore the bomb jump and just do it when you're full clearing Ice Palace.
That actually does make a decent amount of sense. So you're not like stressing out over that one room, because if you're going to check all the other chests anyway, and since they already have the red cane, so they're able to like just hit that switch in the bottom room without having to worry about going to the side or whatever, it makes sense to, you know, a little bit of a stress reliever, I suppose.
Absolutely. Even the most experienced runners mess up the bomb jump. Oh, we got a tempered sword for Durand.
And Naka's following closely behind, opting to enter Ice Palace as well. So it kind of might look like these runners are pretty close. The one thing that Durand has over Naka right now is the Eastern Palace and Palace of Darkness's dungeons already completed. There were no extra items there that Durand got that Naka didn't, but at least those crystals are in hand for Durand.
In hand for Durand.
Yeah, it's nice when rhymes like that just kind of come to you freely. Well, there's that Bombos.
Burn, baby, burn, the Ring of Fire. And there's our fourth bottle. Very well needed the blue for Durand since he only has 3 hearts. While Nakachuu also opted to not do the Ice Palace bomb jump. Durand realizing that since he has all 3 items, it's no point to pick at the last couple chests. He's just gonna go straight to Cold Stare.
So yeah, Ice Palace definitely giving them a pretty decent haul here in this dungeon.
Indeed, they gave them a damage, attack boost, some defensive item, or rather safety, and they gave them progression.
So at this point, the only way Pedestal is still alive is if we end up finding Book before Flute.
Yeah, and imagine if like Book was on Trinex, not even Mimicade, but Trinex.
That would certainly be rough. Although actually finding Book midway through the dungeon could also be a little tricky, because then you'd have to decide, do I want to finish this dungeon or do I want to just gamble on a Pedestal seed? At least with Book at the end, the decision is made for you.
I think that in this case, I would just, since it's a crystal dungeon, I would personally just go through and finish Turtle Rock and get it over with. Since it is pretty high item, there's a pretty high item density in that dungeon as well.
Yeah, that actually does make a lot of sense. You know, I'm thinking, I mentioned this a while back, because we got the early shields, giving them like logical access to Laser Bridge. They also got Cape, but I think we're going to find either Flute or Book on that Laser Bridge. Some kind of progression is going to be there because of, I'm thinking just because they got so many shields so easily.
Yeah, that would make sense. In considering how trolly the seed has been, if it was predicting that, oh god. Nakachuu, in the meantime, didn't look like she counted her items, because if she has everything, she didn't realize that chest with Spike Room was a map in Ice Palace.
Now, I'm curious what you think about this. If they do find the Book in Turtle Rock, and but no Flute, let's say they clear the whole dungeon, would it be better, do you think, to check the Pedestal or just go straight for Desert without even taking a look?
Well, I checked the tablets first. After that, I would say probably Desert, since like 2 items over 1, and like you still have to beat Desert anyway. Might as well just if you have to beat Desert everything, you might as well just go straight to Desert.
Yeah, makes sense. That makes sense. The only advantage is if it turns out that Flute is on Pedestal, then they can sort of go mode Desert rather than full clearing it. But I suppose with it being one of the shorter dungeons, because it's in the light world, go mode versus full clear isn't that big of a contrast.
It almost looked like the Nakachuu took a death, but she did have a fairy in the bottle. Also, chat putting out, we still haven't found powder or shovel yet, so we could have one of those potentially being on the pedestal, and they lead to the flute.
Ooh, that could be interesting if that's what plays out.
But like we said earlier, with how the seat's been trolling these runners, it would not surprise me whatsoever. Also, they both have the shroom. Did either of them check the witch? I don't believe they did.
I just saw. I was thinking the same thing. I saw Naka's pause menu. The mushroom is still in hand. I want to say Durand turned his in though, but I'm not 100% certain. He might not have actually, because that'd be pretty far out of the way, especially without having the flute. Which, if they had the flute, they'd be in go mode anyway, so it wouldn't matter.
And since he's already done the Zora area, both in like Dark World, there's no real point for him to go back to Lich unless he wants potions, which he hasn't seemed to be inclined to using at the moment. Durand also taking that, but he also has that previous fairy in the bottle that Nakachuu also used up. And the TR big key chest only had 300 rupees, which means there has to be a key in either the big chest or the roller room, the single roller room for him to progress. And we have our Mimic Tape check right now. He not having any issues. He seems to be very well versed in how to take out the mimics. And we just got the red man. So now we're just butter sword away from having full armor and a full armory.
All right, so Durand's making his way through this dark room. I like the use of the hook shot to get a few invulnerability frames to avoid taking damage, especially because you want to make sure you go into the Trinex fight with as much health as possible.
Nakachuu gave us a butt-clenching chain chop room. That was not fun. But she was able to get through. As well as Durand getting the butter sword and laser bridge, so now they have a full armory. And there we have it. We have Go Mode. That was the flute at the end of Laser Bridge.
That is definitely something Durand will be happy to find, knowing that doesn't have to worry about Desert Palace at all. And yeah, I like Durand's choice to step outside for a second just to get the little checkpoint in case things go south during the Trinex fight, Which with Butter Sword and half magic, not as likely, but still very possible to happen.
Agreed. And he hasn't really. I haven't really seen him do the fake powder glitch once, so he doesn't really have. He does have that safety if he still has the mushroom, but it doesn't look like he's ever used it. Very quick kill on the fire head, but unfortunately a little slow on the ice head. He gets smacked by the middle head in the process. Let's see how fast he takes out the last head. Durand, what are you doing? You're making this. You're gonna give us a heart attack at this rate.
Just in case Trinex on his own didn't blow up enough for you, just 3 extra bombs to see a couple more explosions.
Would have been better if it was the 10 bomb pack, but yeah. Then that's why that some people call Trinex the Michael Bay boss.
And Durand remembering to mirror before save and quitting just to avoid restarting on the pyramid. Just a minor little thing to remember.
Absolutely. Since it got mirrored fairly early, they had to do the accuracy. Alright, Chad, get your salutes and swag dog emotes in chat because we are getting our national anthem. And the goose is loose.
And Naka took a death, although I believe it was just to get some health back because she was just walking off the cliff a couple times. Just to start off back at the big chest with a few more hearts than she had coming back into the dungeon.
Yeah, it looked the same for me. Meanwhile, Durand decides to get rid of some bees and get some more blue in his bottles.
Which is definitely a good test in self-awareness, realizing I'm probably best off taking a couple blue potions with me, because definitely a lot quicker to have those with you now rather than dying and having to redo a couple of dungeon rooms or something.
Meanwhile, Meyer is just Ether Medallion lock, so is this even rando? Also, no Murder so we don't see a Bart toss for today.
So this is a go mode Meyer that Durand gets to do, but depending on where the big key is, that could mean very little on time save, but we'll see.
Yeah, Meyer as well as Turtle Rock. Go moding the dungeon isn't really that much difference between words. Go moding both of those dungeons isn't that much different than full clearing them. And I just ate my words. That was that was one of the God Myers that you could have.
That being the case, it looks like Durand might be taking a bit of a long way around to get to the through the big key door.
Yeah, I wonder if he forgot that he has those 2 small keys in his inventory. Also, I would be remiss to forget to say that Nakachuu is also in Go World, as she just got her flute.
Yeah, the only unfortunate thing for her is she still has Eastern and Pod to do, but at least they've already been cleared. It's just getting back to the boss in both of them.
This is true.
So at least, even though this was a trolley seed, on the bright side, the seed at least did give them a decent amount of safeties along the way to sort of, make them not feel like they're gonna die at every step they take trying to go through some of these tougher dungeons.
Yeah, it's like the seed was preparing them that they're going to be trolled. And that was a very quick fight, victorious fight for Durand. When you have bow and silver arrows, it's a machine gun. So, chat, we have this little game coming up. This little mini game. It's called the Gangnon's Tower Big Key Guessing Game. Words! Words! I need more water. Anyway, between 1 and 22 item locations for that big key. Please put your guesses in chat between the numbers of 1 and 22. And we'll see who wins. Xander, what's your usual preference for the big key?
I usually say chest number or location number 3 if I had to pick a number, but that's because I always pick Bonk Torch. But I know that that won't always be check number 3 depending on the way the runners route. I believe you mentioned earlier you're a fan of trolling, though.
Yes, I usually pick Tile Room. I've actually won 4 times because of Tile Room. Or rather, one time there was one time where somebody didn't pick the actual number and I was the closest.
Gotcha. One thing I will say, since we're on, anyone who has subscribed to the any of the speed gaming channels or has donated 250 bits to any of these channels will be, if they happen to win the key guessing game, they will be added, tracked on the leaderboards for who has done the best at guessing the big key location.
Absolutely. Oh, as an aside, there were a couple of times when I started the big key game and it turns out I won. So I'm not starting any big key games for the rest of this tournament.
Fair enough.
Okay, first just a small key and another small key. And Durand's gonna opt out of the right side for now and go full left first. And unfortunately, your guess on the bonk torch was just a pizza fart, so that kind of.
Ah, well. The thing is, sometimes the bonk torch can actually be the trolliest location. Oh, there's the big key. That's number 4 then.
Yep, that was number 4. So whoever was the first sub or supporter to get number 4 wins the guessing game. Let's see.
But yeah, there are those rare instances where you can not have boots and then the big key being on the torch. So that's like the slim chance where my choice tends to be the most trolly. But yeah, Tile Room, besides that, is definitely a very trolly location to vote for as well.
Yes, I also. There are days where I like being at Chitrolians and I see that they don't have the boots. It's like, let's have boots on Tile Room and the key on the box torch. Anyway, so our winner for the game was actually. Oh, that's weird. No sub or supporter picked 4, so our closest was a guess of 3 by Azurel Speed. Congratulations, you are on our leaderboard. Meanwhile, Durand starting up the gauntlet. First room wasn't too bad. Second room also very quickly done.
That BMO guarded the one blue dragon head guy, though, for one of his arrow shots.
And the next one decided to shoot Durand directly. You know, it's kind of funny. You would think that the mirror shield would block the BMO's beams, but no, it just blocks the eyeball beams in Ganon's Tower and Turtle Rock.
And on Naka's side, let's see how she fares with the boss fight over here with Argus.
I think you mean the QS.
Yeah, they're both yeses. I always get them mixed up. There's a lot of yeses here in Hyrule. Or at least 2.
Yeah, well, it's a general theme in Zelda. In Zelda, bosses usually have eyeballs as their weaknesses. Durand has been making very quick work of the gauntlet. Well, up until I just said that, and gets blocked by those 4 guards. Alright, Durand got through those last 2 moves very quick, very well. It actually did a little bit of a stutter step because there's a possibility of soft locking. Well, soft locking that area by having the sprites despawn, which would require a mirror warp to reset the sprites.
Yeah, I've heard of that legendary soft lock. I've yet to see it, which I think I'm glad because I would not want to have to see any runner have to deal with that.
I believe there's a clip of that of F. Coughlin having that happen to him in the last year's spring tournament.
And as Durand heads past Moldorm 2, Naka is now heading into getting her 6th crystal, I believe, going through this back end of the Palace of Darkness.
And Durand heads into the second Agno fight. Good old trigonometry boss. Not really getting a good pattern there. He couldn't get any shots off. And even in that one too. Ooh.
Is that possibly a double for the 3rd one, though?
I believe so. I believe those last two were doubles. And that was just a single. Yep, the first two that he actually got were doubles, so it was 0 0 2 2 1 2 2 1 1 in terms of the cycle.
Yeah, so after a couple rough misses, picks it up pretty decently there and heads in for the big pig.
Yep, this should be a relatively easy fight. Ganon is still fairly hard, but with Butter Sword, Silver Arrows, and Red Mail, it's not going to be as hard as you'd know it would be. It's like 12 slashes of Butter Sword to get through his first and second phase.
And with potions and that half magic as well, definitely coming in with a lot of safeties. And we're already onto the teleports, wow.
Yeah, Butter makes this fight super quick. Just really, really quick.
Naka getting her burrito from Helmasaur King, leaving her with one more crystal to go. Quick mirror into the light world, dip into Eastern, and she'll be heading to Ganon's Tower pretty soon.
Durand missing the torch glitch, but with silver arrows is not so much of a big deal. But he gets a double to win. Chat, please get your GGs in. And Durand has finished with an official speed racing TV time of 2 hours, 2 minutes, and 44 seconds.
Just barely above the 2-hour mark, which, with how much this seed had them hopping from like one place to another, picking up little scraps here and there, definitely a pretty respectable time.
Yeah, so very respectable. It was nearly an all Dungeons seed here for both of these runners. Let's see if we can get Durand into chat. Let me just bring him in.
And I wait for Durand. Naka is kind of getting her way, about to head to the dark room here. One of the dark rooms that, like, without lamp isn't the worst because of the little fire rod torches, but if you don't know what you're doing, you can feel a little blind in here and it can rough you up if you're not careful. But luckily having lamp makes quick work of it, and it's just got a couple more rooms left before the Armos Nights.
And Durand is now in the room. GG's, man.
Thanks.
Yeah, how you feeling after that seed?
Well, felt like I've cleared everything almost, except mushroom.
Yeah, between that and desert, like, you pretty much got everything else done.
Yeah. I think it was a linear seed for the most part, but you had to go everywhere just to find the next thing. So it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, that's one of the things we noted for sure, that like there was no real one location that had like the treasure trove of progression.
Yeah, it was just one thing at a time.
Yeah, we noted the way you ran like through this seed. You were doing a lot of like one-off locations, kind of picking up scraps. The biggest one was that going back into Thieves Town for the hook shot. What were you kind of thinking when you were doing those one-off locations around that time?
So, for one, it felt kind of bad having to jump everywhere just to do one-off locations, but while I was over on West Side, I hated to leave behind that one chest in Thieves Town. I've had that one come back to bite me, and it was not worth it. So, that's why I decided to just go ahead and take that one down, so I wouldn't have to worry about it in the future.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I will say, like, besides that, the one place that we were surprised you kind of held off on for a while was Skull Woods, because at least there was, some dungeon progression as well as at least two potential items densely together. Was there any particular reason why you were kind of holding off on Skull Woods for as long as you were?
So I'm used to doing Skull Woods with Northside, but Northside was broken into pieces. Like there was the Bonk Rocks, that was the first thing that was open. Then I get Titan's Mitt, and that opens the King's Tomb. Then I get Mirror, and I'm used to just doing at least two of those things at once. So it felt out of place. But then again, everything was scattered up all over the place. So it felt awkward. That's part of the reason I put it off.
That totally makes sense. I getcha. Siri, do you have you got a question for Durand? I don't want to hog all the interview time.
I'm trying to think of one, but I can't. I'm kind of drawing a blank right now.
Fair enough. Durand, I got a classic question I tend to ask when it comes to sort of like the mind games of Randomizer. How were you feeling like ahead versus behind at any point during the seed? Were you like, man, I got this, or oh shoot, I'm probably like 20 minutes behind after this certain play or something like that?
Having to clear everything, I felt like I was behind toward the end. But there was a point I was sort of on the fence as to whether I was behind or not when I got the mirror by fake flippering. I thought maybe Nakachuu already did that, and that would have really helped with pod. I mean, that made a really awkward pod dive for sure. And different things like that. But after it came to the point where I was clearing everything, I was wondering, okay, how much of this did she skip?
Fair enough, which, funny you should mention it, she did actually fake flipper and get the mirror early. And in a way, it actually cost her some time, because having that mirror, she had like one more thing to do before she knew this was an Agassi, because she made her way up into Tower of Hera, I believe after having climbed Death Mountain already once to deliver the old man. I'm not entirely sure the order of how things went there, but you kind of seem to have a pretty clear lead given that. Oh, and we just found the book in the chest right above where the big key was in Ganon's Tower. In case you were curious, Naka just opened that chest for us to find out.
Yeah, I hate finding the book anytime. Opens up two awkward locations.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so it was interesting seeing how that sequence break actually was a little costly as opposed to potentially saving the day or saving some time.
Yeah, for sure. And I always wonder what's my next move. This looks like an Agassi, but is it? That's usually how I feel when it looks like it's an Agassi. I mean, I had like one more location, but still, what if that was the Titan's Mitts or something like that?
Yeah, so yeah, I was actually wondering, because you didn't check Zora before heading into Aghanim, and I believe Naka did. What was your thinking with that, like holding that off?
I figured it was two item locations, and even if that was access to Dark World, at least if I beat Aghanim, I have access to Pod, and that's another five item locations, since I had the bow.
Gotcha, so you were sort of like weighing time gain versus time loss, because Aghanim itself is a pretty big sink, but it kind of yields a decent reward with access to Pod. Another interesting thing about this seed was, like, you ended up doing fake flippers to get that mirror out of logic, and then we were wondering for a while, where were those flippers going to be? And then it turned out that you got them from the Smiths. So, like, the game expected you not to have mirror to do the whole Smith sequence. I don't know if you kind of had that realization or not, but like you saved time by doing a sequence break there, which is pretty nifty.
I did see that, and I always want to put off Smiths if I don't have the mirror. Like, that's just way out of the way. You can't take the Smith with you if you're going to go into Hype Cave. That's why I skipped over him the first time. But I was just thinking the whole time, okay, I got mirror, it opened up all this stuff, but it's still not in logic, so where are the flippers? And then when they showed up, I felt really relieved. Like, okay, now everything's back in logic. We're good.
Right, and I don't know if one you can refresh your memory. Didn't the purple chest had something nice in it too, didn't it?
Oh, it had the hammer. That was a big one. Pretty sure
Yeah,
it was the
that's
hammer.
right. That's right. That sounds familiar. But yes, that whole Smith sequence just paying off, and just the fact that where the mirror was, like if you wanted to if you wanted to in logic have the mirror for the purple chest, you would have had to drop off the Smiths, then go get the mirror, then come back for the purple chest. So this seed wanted you to do a lot of rough routing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it still was, even with the sequence breaks.
How were you thinking, like, with respect to this possibly being a pedestal seed? Was that, like, something you were afraid of for a while, or just kind of decided, if it happens, it happens? Or because we were getting pretty close, except for the fact that we never found that book.
I wasn't too worried about it, just for the sake of the fact that there were still enough locations left over. When Turtle Rock opened, I thought, okay, that's 6 items there, so chances are I'm going to run into that flute. Just different times like that, I just thought, well, it's probably not pedestal. And if it is, chances are my opponent's not going to, like, go out of their way to, clear everything thinking it's pedestal. I mean, most people are going to do that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Naka actually just, in terms of pendants, the first time around, she just checked the first 4 chests in Thieves, and then she noped out of there.
Yeah, I was actually debating that, come to think of it, but one of the main reasons I went in is, I think toward the front there was almost nothing, so it felt bad to leave that many items behind.
Yeah, I think it was like one progression item and then a bunch of keys and maps or something.
Yeah.
It was actually all 3 dungeon items with the small key right beside the maiden.
Alright, Naka takes down Troll Dorm 2, getting her revenge after a couple of trolls the first time around in Tower of Hera. She's using the cape to get through those bumpers in the treadmill room. Definitely a nice use of her arsenal there to make that room a lot easier. I'm trying to think of places where, like, you might have gained time on Naka throughout the seed. One other thing that she did was she dipped into Swamp without having hookshot, which cost her a decent amount of time because she hadn't been in Thieves Town in the back yet. Was there any point in time where you were considering, like, a Swamp Palace hookshotless play, or were you less, like, avoiding it like the plague?
No, I generally avoid it, but I'm not sure if I should or not, because there were a couple of seeds I've had before, where that cost me. But it's a lot of time lost, so really it's still one of the last things I want to do, is just even try for it.
Fair enough, but yeah, that basically is the very nature of Rando. Is in one seed it can be the thing that ruins your run, another one it's the miracle that gives you an awesome time or something like that. And Naka taking down Aghanim, heading into the Ganon fight. We'll see how she gets through, having basically all the same safeties that you had, Durand, with the butter sword, half magic, plenty of health. Not sure if she grabbed a bunch of potions or not, but yeah, still pretty decent safeties coming into here.
Her Aga fight was a lot better than mine, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think Chet noted she got a triple somewhere in there.
It kind of looked like she had the triple, but I think it counted. I don't. I think a couple of those shots hit together.
That unfortunate triple, but not really, because they hit two, like on the same frame or something, within a close amount of time from another. That's a pain. But already on to phase 3 again, and definitely making quick work of this fight, given no unforeseen circumstances here at the end. And unfortunately with her, where Ganon was landing after finishing that third phase, wasn't able to set up the torch glitch with the lantern, but still not necessarily the most costly thing with all the magic and silvers she has.
And there we go. Nakachuu takes out the big pig. Big pig. Chat, get all your GGs in chat, please.
A nice inspirational, motivational talk there from the Triforce as Naka grabs it. We did it! Congratulations.
And Nakachuu finished with an official Speed Racing TV time of 2 hours, 16 minutes, and 48 seconds. Hello, Nakachuu. GG's.
GG indeed, thank you.
You're welcome. How'd you feel about the seed?
It was pretty messy at the start, and as soon as I did Thieves Town and Swamp Palace in the wrong order, I felt quite behind, and I felt like I had a lot to make up.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was one of the places where you did kind of, unfortunately, sink a little bit of time. The other one, at least early on, was when you chose to use that mirror from Fake Flippers to visit the Tower of Hera before facing off with Aghanim. In the end, Durand ended up going there as well later, so it might not have been too much, but it at least made Durand look decently ahead from our perspective, just because he got into the Dark World earlier than you.
Yeah, I tried to sequence break my way around Aga.
I totally get that. If you can ever avoid having to deal with Aghanim, it definitely feels worth giving a shot.
Exactly. But yeah, I think that's the point where I lost most of my time. And the thing is that normally I always go into Thieves Town, no matter if it's a pendant or a crystal, and I was like, let's switch things up. Let's not do that this time.
Although when you did first dip in there, you didn't have the hammer yet, so it kind of paid off that you only checked the first 4 chests at first, because maybe if you full cleared it, you might not have wanted to go back there just for the big chest.
That is very true. I usually treat those first 4 chests as like kind of overworld included. I always get them at least because they're really fast.
And that totally makes sense, especially because you had the mirror to just nope out really quickly. So that thinking is, I totally get that. One thing we kind of talked about with Durand, that like basically how much the Smith sequence paid off, like what you got from the Smiths as well as from the purple chest. What were your thoughts on that? Because that was like a really interesting thing, especially because you weren't expected to have the mirror yet unless you fake flippered to get, like, you sequence broke and had the mirror for that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, like how like the real logic would have worked if you didn't sequence break. It was kind of interesting. Because you would be doing a lot of mirror locations later that you kind of already checked on the way there.
Oh, and I missed it on Durand's credits, but I saw on yours. It was just couch cash on the pedestal this whole time. We were kind of on and off talking about what are the odds that the pedestal could still be required. And like we were talking at the very end when you two were working through T-Rock that it came down to finding the book before Flute would have kept pedestal seed alive.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was like, can mirror be there? The flute, I mean, can it be there? I was like, it could, some way.
Yeah, and it actually kind of worked out. I usually like wondering where certain items were, so it makes me happy to see that you managed to find the book in that one last chest you checked after the big key, so I can rest easy knowing, okay, they can check the pedestal now if they really wanted to, even though it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was too. I was like, hey, the book, there it is.
So Durand, you're gonna go up to 2-2. What are your thoughts on your next matchup, and then afterwards, Nakachuu? Since you're going down to 1-3, what are your thoughts afterwards?
I feel like the further this gets on, like the further this the Swiss stage goes on, the closer people get in skill level. So I'm expecting someone who's going to be really difficult to me. That's what I'm thinking. Someone who's going to be just. I almost expect them to do similar things at the beginning of the game that I do. You know, it looked like almost a mirrored game. So I almost wonder, should I try and switch it up a little bit, try something new, or should I just stick to practicing? So, just hoping for the best mostly. I'm not really sure what I'm looking for here. What's going to happen?
And Nakachuu, how do you feel now that unfortunately you're 1-3, that you're pretty much out of the tournament? How do you feel about your next, your last matches?
I kind of don't care about it that much that I'm out of the tournament. My goal for this whole tournament was just to win one, and I did that in my first match. I'm pretty new to Randomizer. I just want to have fun. I know I'm not a good player. I know I have a lot to learn, so I'm just enjoying my time in the tournament, meeting new people and having fun conversations and having fun races, and I'll see what the next tournament brings me, and maybe then I can do better.
That is a great outlook for this tournament. It's great to keep up the practice. Xander, do you have any more questions?
I think at this point I would just ask if either of our runners here had any final thoughts on this seed, because it was a doozy.
It was fun, long but fun. And Nakachuu, I hope to see you in future races for sure.
Same to you, buddy, and GG on winning.
And with that, this race is done. I posted some links in chat. Please follow our runners, our commentators, my co-commentator especially, Xander Robotnik, and our tracker, GFE as well. And with that, it's time to sign off. I am Ben SaberUX.
And I'm Xander Robotnik.
And we'll see you next race. GG's. Good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.